Retrospection TikTok. Today, we're going to talk about video game streaming services. And McKay here has done most of the research. But just to clarify, I think of two things. I think of being able to use hardware somewhere else to stream a game to my computer. And separately, I think of a service where you're paying monthly to have access to a bunch of different games. So what exactly are we talking about here?
So for this discussion, we're going to be talking about a service similar to Netflix, only for video games. So your gaming will be provided by some sort of server that is elsewhere that you can bring to basically your phone, your computer, anything that is compatible, I guess. But it will give you a library of games that you just have to pay monthly to access. So
it's not going to be like you can put any game you want on there.
No.
Because I think
one
that's
of these
how it is for the one.
Yeah, one of these is different from the other, but
let's talk about who's doing it.
So with our knowledge right now, what we know is that I'm not even entirely sure that PS Now, I think it might be somewhat of a streaming service, but I think it's also something that'll let you download games onto your console. So it's a little different, but there's PS Now. It's the only thing we have a price for. No, we have a price for two of them, but that's $99 a year. But it's basically a library of PlayStation compatible games. xCloud from Microsoft is going to be is our next one, and it's a project that they're currently working on. It's in beta. We don't have any information on prices or anything.
So when I looked at these, there seemed to be more of a focus on the hardware for the game being remote. Do all of those services actually just have a limited certain amount of games? That
it seems like it. I feel like it would just have games that have been released. Like for xCloud, it would be just games that are for Xbox.
Right. But I mean, for example, Sony, for like $99 a year, I mean, how many high-end games could they possibly put on there and make it irrelevantly not worth it for them, because every game's like $60?
I don't know. I'm not the greatest on
I feel like
businesses running themselves.
It'd have to be like they'd have to be putting on like more indie games than high-end games. I don't know. The whole concept of a service like Netflix has been possible if you and there has been some things kind of like it where you could download the game to your computer and play it, and you have access to this library because you're paying for a monthly subscription or something. That could have happened a long time ago. It doesn't seem like it's very good for the game market. I don't know.
Yeah, like you're saying, like
it seemed like it's been avoided.
Whatever company hosts a service like that really loses out, is what you're saying, because they have to pay. Like, I wonder. I don't even know how that works.
I feel like these services would be best if maybe they had a library game just to entice you and they'd probably be like not so popular indie games, not the main console seller games, and then they would also allow you to purchase games.
Yeah,
it'd be like Amazon Prime, where they have a bunch of stuff that's free if you have the subscription, but there's also a bunch of stuff that you can pay for.
Well, it's kind of weird because Microsoft has they're working on xCloud, of course, but then they have God, what is it called? Frick. They have their own service where you do download games, and it's separate from the streaming. So I don't know how they make a profit on that. What I was hoping to discuss is maybe the problem it could have. We have issues with movie streaming right now where you can only get certain movies on certain services.
Right. So you've got Netflix, they've got Netflix originals. You've got Prime, they've got originals. Hulu has originals. And so now if you want to be able to watch a bunch of these different shows, you have to pay for 3 or 4 different subscriptions.
Yeah, and with that already existing, I wonder if we would see issues in the gaming industry stacking on services on top of what we already have video streaming.
Right.
So
I don't know. It sounds like there's more of a focus on being able to use remote hardware.
Yeah.
And I don't know how good of that business plan is, but one of the services that we looked at that I saw from a Linus Tech Tips video or Linus video
is Blades
essentially
Shadow.
You buy a really simple Linux machine, and then you pay a subscription, and you pretty much have this heavy duty machine out in the cloud, and essentially you can do what you want with it. So if you wanted to put games and play them, you could do that. If you wanted to use its power to render videos, you could do that.
This one's interesting because it's not providing content for you, it's providing a means to use content.
That to me is the only enticing service where it's like, okay, maybe
And that one's
I'm saving up for a new computer, but I want to be able to play the highest end game. Maybe I can subscribe to this and play the higher end games.
It appeals to me because, well, let's think about it. It's like what, $45 a month, right?
I don't know. That's a little high.
It equates over
for
like
me.
It's over like $450 a year, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the rationale, like at that point, you could build a pretty decent computer, almost,
Yeah.
with that same amount of money. So,
But you know what happens when you save $45 a month? It tends to disappear after a few months.
yeah. But what we were talking about it before, and you had mentioned the plus side of subscribing to Blade Shadow, which is the service we're talking about, would be that the hardware you're playing games on would constantly be upgraded as time goes.
Right.
You wouldn't be forking out the money yourself to upgrade your own machine that will eventually be replaced. You'd just be paying for it all to happen for you. So,
And assuming that their revenue model is based on the fact that their servers, that they're not like individual computers. What they're getting is a giant server, and in that server, it'll have like so many, like 32 cores and four graphics cards. And that sounds weird, but if you work in like the software industry, you realize those sort of things. You get something like that for like $7,000 or something. I don't know, maybe more, like $12,000. But then, and then I don't know how many people they divide that server with, but to me it's starting to sound like it'd be hard to make a profit on that model. But hopefully they did figure it out, because if they didn't, then you're going to end up, the hardware's going to get old and they're not going to upgrade it because it's not going to be cost effective.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of the risk. I've never heard of this before, and it doesn't seem like it's that big of a thing. Linus, on Linus Tech Tips, he talked pretty
thoroughly?
He's pretty
Highly
optimistic about it.
He talked highly of it.
But this is kind of similar to OnLive. OnLive was kind of a smaller thing, and they tried to be way ahead of their time. This was like 2010, and they were streaming games. And I remember Alex had OnLive? Alex Fox?
I didn't know.
He used to play Dirt on it, but...
The game Dirt, or...
he just pop up a
garbage
screen.
Games.
Well, Dirt's one I've always looked at, but I've never thought I could play it because I don't have a machine that'll handle it.
Since 2010, I think internet speeds have made great strides in most metropolis city areas. I mean, like where we live, there was actually pretty decent internet. Like they gave us pretty good speeds through DSL, but now they're upgrading the whole city to fiber, and most of the city has it. We have it. We actually have a slower option because we're cheap, but we have the option to we have the option to pay for gigabit. Right now we have like 120 megs.
Yeah, we don't need much more than that. So
I haven't noticed any issues with 120 meg, but
I haven't either.
If we were to try out one of those streaming services, we might need gigabit.
If we had multiple of those going on.
Yeah,
especially there's a lot more information transfer happening with that than opposed to like a video watching a couple instances of Netflix or Hulu. So
yeah.
God, there's something I was thinking about, but it left me, so
I don't know, but I don't think that any of those products are that thoroughly descriptive of how they're going to be set up as far as what they're providing certain games and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all been kind of vague. I really don't think this is a 2019 thing that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to catch on immediately. It might be 2020.
We mentioned
might be in the future.
Sony and Microsoft. There's also rumors for Amazon.
Yeah.
Pretty, as far as rumors go, pretty up there on the, like, it's still a pretty big rumor more than it is fact.
Yeah.
Mainly it's based off of 4 different job listings that they put on their website for cloud gaming stuff. So
if I could just take a minute, I feel like Amazon's been jumping into a lot of things lately, and it kind of confuses me because like they're doing a lot of new stuff that they've never done before, and
yeah,
it makes me kind of wonder if there's going to be longevity in all of it.
And they take on too many different things. Well, I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, Sony has its foot in a million markets.
Yeah, but Sony's...
But they do mostly deal with... I don't know. They have their foot in a lot of markets.
Like, they do, yeah.
Like all kinds of stuff. DVDs, TVs.
I feel like I'm at this weird point. I used to think really highly of Google, but now I've seen how some of their side projects favor in their I guess, priorities. And I almost think Amazon's more capable of having a service go strong than Google is. Well, Google has the backups, like they have the servers for it. And
well, Amazon's not short on money.
No.
So they can pretty much accomplish whatever they feel like it.
What is it like? I feel like I saw a statistic a while back that was like, I don't know if it was up to 70%. It could have been more, but I feel like somewhere around 70% was still like Google's, the amount of income from ad revenue was that high for them still. Like everything else,
main income source is still
ad revenue.
Because they almost control the internet as far as making money off of ads. And
yeah, so
the thing with Google is they have so many side projects that they're constantly doing. It feels like that there's not a ton of great effort put into a single one, and so a lot of them end up kind of floating away as far as their success.
Yeah, like Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts went fairly strong for, I don't know, 7, 8 years almost. Maybe it was only 5. I don't know. But like they're shutting it down now. And what Google Keep was really cool, but they didn't allow the option to text SMS style with people, and so that flopped majorly. And they have Google Play Music, which is now getting the death sentence, but we don't know when, because they're trying to replace it with YouTube Music. But they haven't progressed in almost a year on that. I mean, all that much.
There's another thing is there's a few too many places where Google has
multiple feet.
It has competition in its own company.
Yeah.
Like 2 of the same products competing. And that, I don't know what Google's excuse is. I work for a company that just merged with another company, so there are very similar products down both sides. That is obvious when you're going to merge 2 companies. It's not that easy to merge those products. But Google, I guess Google has bought a lot of companies.
Well, but it's not like these things we've mentioned haven't branched off from other companies, really. They started out as Google-owned properties. YouTube Music, they've owned YouTube since like 2006 to 8. I don't know for sure. But... And then Google Play Music is just straight up labeled Google, so...
Well, I mean, we're assuming that... I mean, there's a chance that Google buys these small companies with rights to... that were just starting to work on these projects, and Google takes them and just renames the project. And
That's true.
And we never know that it actually started at some small company Google bought. I mean, it's really complex, but it seems like far too often they have services competing. At least, I mean, that music thing, they kind of competed.
They're still eventually they're still saying they're gonna take all of your likes and your library from Play Music and put it in YouTube Music, but they haven't done it. And I like, now you're thinking, what does this have to do with gaming? And that's
it doesn't. It's a tangent.
Yeah, it all comes down to how we think Google will manage their game streaming. What was it? Project Stream, creatively named.
I mean, Google's not a gaming company.
They're not, and it confuses me.
And
neither is Amazon.
Amazon's not either. Amazon actually surprised me with their...
I feel like they're jumping
with
on
their Prime Video. I feel like
Prime Video.
That became more popular than I thought. Like that.
Well, Prime Music surprised me.
Well, Prime Video also surprised me because I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to get Prime so that I can stop using someone else's account to order packages and get 2 free day shipping. So I get Prime, and then I'm like, oh, hey, I actually have Prime Video now with this. And I don't even I feel like I'm getting it for free because I'm just getting Prime for the 2-day shipping.
That's how it was for me in Google Play Music. Is I signed up for YouTube Red, which is now premium. YouTube Red was a perfect name, guys. But I signed up for YouTube Red, and I was like, this is cool. No ads. I can watch YouTube Red originals. And then I found out I had Google Play Music as well.
Now you have Google Play Music twice, right?
No.
Oh, I thought
I haven't changed my subscription, so it stayed the same since they made the change. I still pay a lower price.
Oh, I thought you had Google Play Music through 2 different services.
No.
Oh.
No. And YouTube Music is covered under the same service. It's all just a mess. But
so they're not technically competing because, well, no. that's
they're trying
really
to compete
weird.
for a user base.
You pay for one service, you get them both. But which one do you use? Well, at this point, not the one that's dying.
Well, yeah, but at this point, YouTube Music is also missing a lot of music. So, do you go with the one that's going to be shut down, or do you go with the one that's incomplete?
Well, see,
That's
why
the
they're
issue
shutting
with
down,
Google.
They're shutting down the complete one because they can't afford to pay for all that music.
Another thing, I didn't I didn't plan for this to be a Google Bash session. Can we just point out their incompetency more on the fact that our YouTubes keep switching between the old and new user interface?
Yeah.
So
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I would trust Google with a game streaming service. I would expect the quality of the stream itself to be good, but I wouldn't expect the quality of service to be good.
Here's the thing. If PlayStation and Xbox are going to have games included with their service, then Amazon and Google, they don't have games.
They have to find a different library. They gotta. And it's probably going to be indies, which are $2.
Either they compete and try and. Really, their best bet would be to say, "Hey, whatever game you own, you can play it on our hardware."
Like, what's that? What's that service that will couple your movie purchases on multiple accounts?
I don't know.
It's a really cool. It's a service you sign up for, and you link all of your media accounts to it. So Prime Video, Google Play Music, YouTube. You can purchase movies on YouTube if you didn't know, which is another thing. That's weird. But you can couple all these together, and you can go in there and say, "Hey, I have this movie on here," and it'll put it on those accounts for you, which I don't understand how that even works. Because what are they doing with...
I'd be interested. That's interesting because I wouldn't think that, like, if you have a movie on this service, that this service would be so willing to say, "Oh, fine, we'll give it to you." Because you already own it.
It's confusing to me.
But it's like, I guess if they want to entice you to use their service, they're going to say...
They're going to want your library to come over.
It's not like you're going to buy this game or this movie again, and we don't technically have to charge you for it if you already own it, because of the movie right holder doesn't need you to
That's
buy
a good
it.
way to safeguard on a service shutting down.
Yeah.
Because then you can just keep adding, like, oh, there's this new service that's really successful. Let's add our library to that one.
That's the other thing. I've never been a big fan of services like that because, I mean, I actually find Netflix and Prime Video quite useful because I feel like I watch a series and most of the shows I watch, I'm like, oh, I don't really need to watch these again.
Yeah.
So it's worth it. But with games, I'm like really nostalgic. To 10 years from now, I want to own every game I've owned, essentially, that was good.
And that's the biggest issue with this, too, is...
And so if 10 years from now, Xbox is like, yeah, streaming's not our thing, there goes every game. Well, there goes, like, you never paid for the games, so now they're gone. Because you just paid for the service and you had access to the games. But essentially, over years, you're putting hundreds of dollars into this, and then it disappears like that. I don't like that.
I think that's one of the biggest issues with this, because gamers love to own their stuff. And what happens, like, it's doubly concerning with Nintendo shutting down ROM sites, which they have their right to do that, of course. People are getting games illegally. But for us people who have purchased things on, like, say, the eShop or the Xbox Store...
Let's say I purchased all kinds of games on the Wii, but, like,
it might be shut down already.
Or my Wii broke. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if it's not shut down, it will be, where you won't be able to go in on your Wii and download the games you've already purchased. They're just going to shut it off eventually.
I think we're at that point. I think it just barely happened at the new year.
And so it's like, so when Nintendo goes down and cracks down on ROMs, it's like, are you really saving yourself any money? Because anyone that's used a ROM is probably not going to buy one of those consoles anyways. I don't know.
A streaming?
No, one of their
the classics.
Or they are anyways, just because they are nostalgic.
Oh, we left out a news point. Oh well.
Really, I just don't. When I look at it, I don't see any way that these streaming services can succeed if their main market isn't just taking the games you already own and providing hardware for you.
Yeah.
Which is also still in my mind a sketchy market, but I don't see how they make money off of putting a ton of their first party games on a streaming service that people only buy if it's $99 or less a year probably. I don't know. We'll see how they implement them. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, this is obviously where the industry is gonna go. I don't feel like it's gonna stay hard copies and essentially, comparing to the movie market, DVDs forever.
I feel like the industry would,
though they do still sell DVDs.
Right. I can buy shows that are on Hulu through DVD, can I? At some point? I assume they'll be on DVD at some point.
You see DVDs in Walmart for movies all the time, but even though it's highly outdated. But this is where I think the gaming industry is going, and I feel like when it does happen, it'll be the normal, and any bickering we've done in the past will subside for the most part.
I don't know.
We'll just have to deal with it.
I don't know. I feel like the gaming where it's at is pretty good. Where you can download it through your account. Let's say I have a Nintendo account, so I buy a game through my account, I download it, or I can go get the hard copy.
Yeah.
That to me is ideal for those. I mean, I guess this is all for PC games. Is it? Or
well, why would PlayStation have PC game service?
I don't know. Never mind.
It's a bit confusing because they all have kind of different things going on,
and there's really not a lot of detail as to what their plans are, which is why I'm like, it could go a lot of ways, but I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
We will see. And I think that finishes our discussion.
Yeah, we can't really hit it on the head anymore
No.
Because we really don't know very much.
It's very unknown, but we'll see. And with that, we will see you next time. Farewell.